in case you don't know who I am, especially for you, Mike, I'm Joe Thompson, President of your World Series champion Houston Astros chapter. I got the shirt and the hat to prove it. Bill and I was talking about something interesting today. Well, just a few minutes ago, I saw something on Facebook. Carlos Beltran is eligible for the Hall of Fame next year. Yep. And they have already started. Yep. The first member of the 2017 Astros. Does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? And I asked Bill, does he even have the numbers to get in the Hall of Fame anyway? But you know what the story is going to be, of course, right? So we have that. We can talk about it at a later time, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to celebrate our Astros and remember an Astros legend. Well, not remember. You haven't gone away there, but you're here. All right? Yes.
Jose Cruz.
So, utter chaos.
You're absolutely right. To be continued, though. We have a lot of guests tonight. If you're on Zoom and you're a guest, really? Is that who I think it is?
Yeah, it is.
That is? Oh my goodness. All right, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed now. But
The max one.
But if you're a guest, if you've never been here before, welcome. If I don't say your name, please tell us who you are. We have Frank Puhl, right? Just like Pluto, but without the O. Frank Puhl, right? And you're a guest of Ralph Morgan, who was a guest of Mike. Right? Every time I say that, Mike, because he said, you notice Mike's not with me today, right? Nick Clark and Marina Schultz, right? Wife of former chapter member Gary Schultz, right?
Right.
So welcome, both of you. Welcome. We're all family here. I mean, really. Anybody else that I forgot? Anybody online? Vince, I see it.
Sure.
Ryan?
Joe. John Atkins.
Oh, man, I'm sorry, John.
That's all right.
John Atkins, who I met through Ted. I really like John because he invited my wife and I. What was it, game 1 of the ALCS, babe? Yeah, so John, lifelong friend right here. Thank you.
We won.
Yes, we won. Right, we won. Ted, I guess we can ask at a later time, but do the Astros qualify as a dynasty now, Ted? You probably would know more than anybody else.
I think so. Yes. under my test, which requires 2 years in a row, they're gonna win next year. So they're definitely.
Okay.
All right. Real quickly. Yeah, real quickly. I also saw some other stuff online. We could talk maybe a little bit, very briefly. Verlander to the Mets. There's a rumor floating around out there. What do y'all think of that?
Don't see it. I see him going to California if he doesn't re-sign here.
Okay.
We gotta get close to Donald.
Goodbye. Huh?
That was me. It used to work out.
He's got his 2 rings, right? On the 16th, just a couple of days ago, we had a regional chapter leaders meeting where a few of us around the country talked about different things. Basically, what a chapter can do to qualify the All-Star or MVP status or good, or Bob and I was talking about some of the stuff. It's, that was basically what we can do as chapters to qualify as this status and that status. There's a couple of things. I'm not really going to talk about it much today because of who's here, because of the schedule, but we can talk about at a later time. Some of the stuff we can do as a chapter to engage more with the city. A lot of things we can do. There's a local grants program that's coming out that SABR has that we could possibly do some stuff. Another research project. If any of y'all remember how long ago when we did the book? How long ago?
2014.
2014, when as a chapter we got together and wrote a history of baseball before the Astros, going back to the Civil War all the way up. So maybe something like that we could even talk about maybe doing in the future. In case you don't know, and I'm bringing this up because SABR badgered me, emailed me almost every day, renew your membership. I finally did today. So please renew your membership if your membership is about to expire. If you haven't joined yet, our guest, hopefully after today you'll be so excited you'll get home and join. But if you haven't renewed, you can set it up to auto renew too, right, Bob?
Will be automatically reduced unless you say no. So
Okay.
a lot of us.
Yeah. Exactly. A couple of days ago, if you have not read it already, we have a brand new edition of the chapter newsletter. We have a lot of great stories in this chapter newsletter. I'll save the least for last, but thanks to Tony and Scott for putting another great newsletter. Tony, pointing at Scott. Scott is the man. Not only did he put the newsletter together, he wrote a great story about the recap for the Astros this previous year. So Brownie wrote another edition, or is it the final edition?
We think so.
Life of Cal. Life and career of Cal. Never say never. I don't know. John Ward. President Emeritus Bob wrote a great story about his center field idols, right? Jimmy Wynn. Yeah, yep. Chris, you wrote a great story about solo homers. All right, and Herb, you wrote about the automated strike zone. And the least, most popular, I would say, the least, probably the worst story in the entire newsletter is my message.
I agree.
About the baseball bucket list. All right. It is because of SABR that I've had the experience to meet all of you great people and travel all over the country and go all of these great parks. And I just tell you a little bit about it. So if you haven't joined SABR or if your membership is about to expire, just think of all the great benefits traveling around the country. A lot of people you know have a lot of things in common and seeing great things. Because of SABR, I went to Camden Yards in August. Also went to Ripken Field. Stuff like that. I went to PNC Park a couple of years ago. But I've been to, I don't even know what the ballpark in Spokane is. That in the 90s, I went and saw the Spokane Indians. We still haven't figured out who they were affiliated with back in the late 90s. But I've been there. So, yeah, give it a read if you have a little extra time. But it's the worst story in the newsletter.
And send us some stories.
And and finally, send us some more stories because we're already talking about the next newsletter. Will come out in February, right? Right around spring, so that's March. Yeah. Or February, early February. End of January, early February. Okay. All right, very quickly on November the 12th, we had another Saturday morning get together and talk session. I thought it went pretty good. It was really a celebration of the Astros and, stuff like that. We had a couple of other, people join in and talk. So if if you're online or if you're watching this recording and you don't have a chance to show up on Monday night or even Zoom in or something like that, and you're watching, if Saturday's a better day for you, we're having another Saturday session on December the 17th. We will also meet the newest chapter members. The last time we had a Meet the Chapter Members event, on a Saturday, we met Patrick, right? Right, we met you. So we're having another one on Saturday, December 17th, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. So these things are pretty popular, I think. So this just may be a normal thing we do on Saturday morning. So you don't have to be a member of the chapter. So if you know somebody, invite them up. It's less formal, of course. We just do a lot of talking about baseball. Speakers for next month. Tony Adams. Anybody ever heard that name? StealingScandal.com. He's a member of this chapter. He lives in Houston. He's the data guy who listened to over 8,000 at bat or 8,000 pitches, and he logged every time he heard a trash can bang. So he will be our guest next month. He says this: I'm an Astros fan. To understand the scope of the Astros cheating and the players involved, I logged every trash can bang from every Astros 2017 home game with video available. Over 8,200 pitches watched and over 1,100 trash can bangs found. Here's the results. I could talk about, this is what he's going to talk about. I could talk about his story and the process he went through. He's going to log in, use a monitor, and for the first time, he'll connect a laptop and show us how he logged the bangs. He's never shown this live. So please show up next month. You'll see how the guy came up with this data. I have a lot of questions for him. But hey, I've talked to him on Twitter message. He's a great guy. He really is. So it should be interesting.
He's a hobby.
Yeah, he's a he's one of those data guys, but that's okay. So hey, but like he said, he is an Astros fan. We'll also hear from David Vaught, professor of history at Texas A&M. He's just released a new book is coming out about Gaylord Perry. It's called Spitter, Baseball's Notorious Gaylord Perry. So he's going to talk to us about 10 minutes next month about his new book. That seems to be the theme of next month, right? In January of next year, we'll have January 16th, Alyson will join us. Okay? But without further ado, I'm going to shut up. That's right. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. Sit down, Joe. I forgot to announce a very important person. That is the reason I'm standing here today. She keeps me in line. But if you haven't met her, this is my wife. Sue. Take the best for last, right? So without further ado, Bill, I'll let you introduce our guest of honor.
Joe, great to see everybody. And Shirley. Hi, Shirley. Shirley, I want you to know that Terry Puhl and I have been talking about Bill's coaching and how to slide into the catcher and dislodge the ball. Those lessons live on. But so glad to see all of you here tonight. It's chilly night, but it's kind of, hot stove league time. And nobody uses that term anymore that I think of, but it used to be. What's that? Used to be north in Cincinnati, we'd gather around the hot stove, talk baseball. We don't need that here. But nonetheless, great to see everybody. And it's my pleasure. Well, we have Tal and Terry, so both of our inductees, the Astros Hall of Fame. And a pleasure to introduce Terry. And I had that pleasure already this year. So you may, I'm sure all of you are well familiar with his career, but we're very pleased to have him, and he's been unable to speak to our group previous years because he's been coaching college at the University of Houston, Victoria, commuting from Houston down there. So that shows you how much he wanted to contribute to the youth of today and teach the sport and help out young people for their careers, and that's certainly admirable. He also is working a full-time job, court of management, helping people with their financial plans the rest of their lives, and so he's making that contribution as well. And I've said this many times, but we're really fortunate as Houston baseball fans to be living in an area where so many players, executives, people associated with the team continue to live here years after they retire. So they're contributing to the community, they're helping the economy, they are doing a lot of things to answer questions about years gone by and help people understand the way the game has gone and give it some depth and perspective. And fortunate to have that. I remember Terry, going back to Cincinnati years, we were talking before the meeting tonight about Reds and Astros back in the 70s. He came up, and I certainly remember an opening day home run you hit off Tom Seaver. And I believe that was the Seaver versus J.R. Richard opening day. So I know all of that, you know, you're so sick of us broadcasters. Wow, boy, we got opening day, you know, great Hall of Fame pitching matchup. This should be a 2-1 game. It was, I think, 11-0. Those are low. But that's the way that game started. Terry Puhl home run, right field seats. And you know what he's done in his career, but that 14 years with the Astros really is one thing that has to be mentioned up front, because only Biggio and Bagwell have played longer for the Astros. So with that longevity and with the fact that he started so young, coming from Canada, came up through the Astros farm system, learned how to play the game, had excellent coaching. He had Bill Verdon as his manager and also his outfield coach. So that was a plus for Terry, but fundamentally one of the soundest players of his era. You know, you look at players strike out now, or they drop fly balls, or they miss the cutoff man. And baseball is a game of mistakes, but the best players eliminate those mistakes. And that's what he did. He just didn't make those fundamental mistakes. It's very well schooled. I'm sure he'll talk about that as he goes through, you know, the various facets of his career. But I remember all these things about Terry. I remember his speed, his outfield play, how he could play all the outfield positions, and the ability to steal a base, to put down a bunt. You know, base running is something he and I were talking about at dinner, and just, you know, he mentioned Pete Rose used to be able to read those hits, and he'd be picking up a ball on one bounce in the outfield, and Terry looks around and Rose is already almost at third base. Well, Rose wasn't that fast, but he had the uncanny ability to read the ball off the bat and know when it was going to be falling in for a hit. So those are the kind of things that Terry had too as a player. It's just such a big part of the development of the team put together by Tal, and an excellent team in 79. And then in 80, of course, the playoff series he had against the Phillies with the 10 hits in 5 games. And, you know, his career playoff average was 370. So, yeah, he was at his best when the games were the most meaningful. Ladies and gentlemen, Terry Puhl.
Good friend of mine said, always bring notes. Says you don't have to read it, but you should always carry them. And keep them here. First of all, before we start, thanks for the invitation.
In fact, he doesn't look as
Interesting group. And before we start, Ms. Burton, good to see you. Greg, good to see you. Greg Lucas. And I don't know if Che is down there or anything, but his name is there.
Oh, he did?
I've got a Jose Cruz story for you.
Hi, Terry.
I've got to recognize Cal Smith before we get started. He's got a beautiful jacket on. You have to stand up and go, just that jacket when they outfitted us to have those done, and it was the most beautiful orange I've ever seen, and the blue contrast to it, and it was such a pleasure to go in with the only executive that I really knew was the Astros. And let me tell you a little story about Cal Smith. So 77 was the year I came up. I came up July. Actually, on my birthday, you called me up on my birthday. And so first game we're playing as the Dodgers. You know, I had to be shaking. There was 44,000. I hadn't played in front of 4,400. And so I finished that season. I hit 301. And so we go into negotiations for the next year. First time I ever got to negotiate with Cal, because John Mullis, the assistant, always took care of the minor league guys or the guys on the 40-man roster. So Cal gave me his best offer, and we were kind of holding out to see, but he got word back to me that I should take his best offer because he could renew me. And so anyways, I took that best offer. We start 78. Now 78, I end up being on the National League All-Star team. And I still remember it's a Sunday game, and we have to fly from Houston out to San Diego. I have to fly out there for the game. And we're hustling after the game. I get in, I've got my first class seat, and I walk up there. Who's sitting in the next seat? Poor guy, it's the hardest 3 hours I've ever had. Yeah, I really do appreciate everything that you did for our team. It was fabulous year, fabulous year. I couldn't have, like I said, I couldn't have overjoyed to be part of that. The two of us going in together. That was great. Well, whenever we start these things, you guys talked a little bit about trivia. Now, I've got a trivia question for you. Now, I can't give much of the information here because there's too much brain power, astral power here. So I really gotta go real slow with this. Can you name the two former Astros that led the National League and the American League at the same time in home runs? Now, I usually give a lot more information than that. If I give too much information for this group, it's going to go like that.
The same year?
The same year, they led the National League at one time and the American League at one time at the same time. I'm starting to give it away a little bit now. Okay, I'll give you one little hint. These guys ended up both playing for the Astros and became roommates for 10 years. They led the National League and the American League in home runs at the same time in 78. I'm surprised. Okay. The answer is Craig Reynolds and Terry Puhl. Tom Seaver and Craig ended up Mark Langston, I believe, with Seattle when he was over. So we figured out that we're Astros. I had a pleasure to play with so many great players. Houston, so many Hall of Famers. You start with Joe Morgan. You had Don Sutton was there, of course, Nolan Ryan. Played briefly with Craig Biggio a few years. But there's the guts of the Astros, Mr. Cruz. Jose Cruz, he and I were the longest running teammates that I had, 12 and a half years with the Astros. And he Lockard lived right there. That's where he was. So Daniel was right next to him, and Cheo was there. So I got to be with these guys for so many years, especially Jose Cruz. Well, in 1980, we go out. It was mid to the later part of the season. We go to Philadelphia, and Cheo's playing left field. Nolan's on the mound, and it's raining. Cheo's playing left field. I'm playing right. Cedeno's in center. And so there's a runner on second base, and the guy gets a base hit to Cruz in left field. Cruz comes in. Cheo comes in, feels the ball, throws it. It goes over Ashby's head. And Nolan's behind, goes over his head, so it's flat up against the wall. Nolan grabs the ball and he shakes his head, walks out. So of course, then the hitter goes to second base on that play. The next pitch, base hit, Jose Cruz out of left field. Here he comes. Gets the ball, throws the home plate over Ashby's head, Nolan's head, it's flat. Needless to say, we got blown out in that game. But after the game, after the game, the bus is really quiet. And we have Bill Burton is sitting on the first seat, and he's waiting. And the last person to get on the bus is Jose Cruz. And he comes on, it's 11:30 at night. He comes on, he's got black shoes, black pants, black jacket, black cap, and sunglasses. He walks onto the bus and he looks around at everybody and he goes, Jose Cruz strong. Was around Jose, he was the guy in the clubhouse that kept everybody loose. And he was just one of those credible guys. One of the most, in my opinion, the most dangerous here in Africa. Nolan Ryan. You can't go through an evening without saying a quick story on Nolan. Nolan was a teammate of mine for 9 years, from 80 to 89. But at spring training, at the last week of spring training, all the wives leave, they go to Houston. And we're there. So I remember Craig Reynolds and I were going to go meet Nolan at the Kissimmee Steakhouse. And so we're on our way, Craig and I are on our way over there. We thought, well, we're a little bit early. Let's swing by and pick up Nolan along the way because he's come to meet us anyways. So we drove up to his place. And sure enough, his car was in the driveway. So we went up, we knocked on the front door, no answer. The door is locked. So well, he's got to be here. So both Craig and I walked around and picked it back. And knocked the door, no answer, opened it, well, the door is open. So we walk in and we can hear the shower. Well, we know he's coming to meet us. So we go, let's just go on in. And so we went in and he had his TV on. And he said, Craig and I said, you know what? He's got to come out. He's going to turn that TV off. So let's hide behind the stairwell. And when he turns that off, we will both jump up and scream. So turn the TV on. And so, yeah, we got in there and we were waiting. And then we started thinking, this is stupid. Everybody knows Nolan's got guns. Now we're committed because the shower's off and we're in his house. So sure enough, Nolan comes out. He turns that TV off. Craig and I jump up and scream, don't turn the TV off. Well, he went through the roof. People say he throws a 90-mile curveball and a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, but he scares just like you and I. I take you back a little bit through my career because I came through the entire Astros minor league system. Went through Covington, Virginia. Billy Smith was our manager. And Billy was funny. He brought everybody to home plate the first day that was at Covington. And there's like 35 of us there. And he says, he had those remember, he used to always chew tobacco and everything. He's spitting all over the place. And he says, now look at everybody here. He says, all of you, you're all the hot shots of the high school and everything. He says, one of you will make it to the big leagues. He was almost right. It was Louis Puhl and myself that came out of that. I graduated the next year to A-ball. Gentleman named Bob Cluck was there. Bob Cluck was a left-hand pitcher. He just finished his playing career and was coming in there. And I didn't play that much in the first month. And he inserted me at third base. It was late in the ball game. A guy hit a sacrifice fly, and I came down home plate, and I completely took out the catcher, and the ball broke loose, and we scored the winning run. And he says, "Oh, that tough Canadian." He said, "We got to play him more." Well, by the time the half of the year was up, I made the Midwest League All-Star team, and that was kind of I got on the map that year. Pedro Guerrero, you may remember him. He was with the Dodgers at that time. We were 1-2 in batting average the rest of that year. Following year, I got to go to Double-A, which was in Columbus, Georgia. Leo Posada was our manager. So Leo He taught me, I'm telling you, if I did it once, I did it every day. Cause there was 5 of us that would go out early at 10 o'clock practice, and then we had to come back for the game. We were so-called the prospects of that team. And he would make me throw long and get my arm on top to throw and get the backspin. And he'd watch it all the time to make sure I do it. And he did that almost every day. So in the minor leagues, you have coaches that really install great habits for you. Trying to think of who was the assistant coach at Covington Cal that year that he ended up coming to the big leagues, Latin coach. He worked with my swing. We used to hit balls into the tarp up at the thing. But I would take 200 swings a day just hitting balls into the tarp, and that was your minor leagues. That's what you did in the minor leagues. Well, then I was at Columbus for a month and a half. I get to move up to Charleston, West Virginia. Well, actually Memphis. Then we moved to Charleston, but Jim Beecham was there. Jim Beecham was there, and the first day I go in there, club isn't doing too well. We're playing a doubleheader, and I get to play, and I made a third out at third base. And in between, we lost the first game, and I actually had a pretty good game otherwise, but he's walking down just airing us out between games, and he got on the Traverse or shortstop, and then he walked down and he stops in front of me. He looks at me, he says, "And you, Puhl." He says, "You ever make a third out at third base again in your career here?" He says, "I'll send you back to Columbus so fast you won't hit you." I never made a third out ever. And that's what it takes is good managers like that. Of course, I get moved up to the big leagues. Now I'm dealing with Bill Verdon. You gotta think about it. This man was a maniac when it came to fungo hitting, and we would go to spring training, and he would take 3 of us outfielders, and he'd say, wherever I hit the ball, when you catch the ball, just stay there. I'll move you. And after 20 minutes, we would come in at the end and just wring our jerseys out, and you have perspiration would be coming out of it. And he was the one about never missing a cutoff man. It was like, and it was so ingrained in me. If you were ever going to miss, you were going to miss down low, because there was nothing that irritated Bill more on than a ball thrown over a cutoff. But it's again the little things in baseball that the big things take care of themselves. If a guy can hit, he's going to figure out how to hit. If he can run, he's going to show that he can run. But it's those little things that that's have great habits. I used to love Craig Biggio. I think one of the greatest stats Craig Biggio ever had was he played 1 year. He had 600 at bats. 600 at bats. It's a lot, and he never hit into one double play that year. That's incredible for a Leo practice. That means he took off as soon as he hit the ball, he was gone. And those are the good habits that I think are missing in today's game, and what made our era of players very astute in the game. I saw where John Rackinelli, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name, he's going to talk after I am, but he wrote a story on Andre Dawson. Andre Dawson was intentionally walked 5 times in one game. It's an all-time record. And I read the story today. I went, wow. Andre Dawson was my favorite player to play against, because we go into Montreal and Andre, he could throw a ball better than anybody. You could not take an extra base off him. Well, I went up to Andre one day, see, he had such great bat speed. He hit that home run off Frank 40 up in the upper tank that went on the line drive. And the next day, we were out there stretching and Dave Smith was screaming, hey, Frank, we found it. Montreal, Billy Mars was the hitting coach over there. And I asked Billy, I said, whenever you're working with Andre Dawson, please let me see him hit in the cage because I want to see the secret of hitting. And he says, Terry, he came out, he says, Andre's hitting today early. He says, come on down. So I went down there and I walked up and Andre was hitting balls off the tee. I watched 3 swings and I walked up. Well, guy's incredibly strong. He was the strongest human being you've ever seen. And I asked Andre, what kind of weights did you do? He says, 10 pound weights, Terry. Here, reps here, here, and here. And you know how he was cut. He had that frame. Just an incredible player, but intentionally walked 5 times one game. It was an extra inning ball game for us, and they won the game. Lou Piniella walked in intentionally 5 times in one game. I'd like to open it up a little bit to questions too. I don't want to take too much time, but go ahead.
We got a question. A friend of yours who I won't name here said, make sure to ask Terry, do you have the video on your phone, of a particular catch that you made in a particular game involving Miller?
Yeah, it's I don't know if any of you have seen the Facing Nolan document. They came and they interviewed me on that, and the first time I showed it to Nolan, I have his catch that I made off Sosha. It's a 7th inning that literally saved that no hitter. And but a lot of things about that, we shifted Sosha around. So I was a right fielder. I was probably playing more in right center to center fields, and everybody shifted over. And Sosha hit that ball almost just right of center field, and I caught that ball just as I was going on the warning track. But anyway, I do have that. I keep it in. And every time I see Nolan, I say, "Hey, Nolan, I got something." He says, "Yeah, I know what you got." Hockey point. Yeah, so. Well, and what was funny about that? That was a game of the week, 1980, wasn't it? When he threw this, no, it was 86, but it was a game of the week in September. And he ended up showing up in front of my locker 10 minutes after the game. I was sitting over there, just cracked a beer with Cheo. We were sitting down there and drinking it, and Nolan shows up and he looked at me and said, TP, he says, nice catch. He'll walk up.
So are good defensive players, can you make them, or is it something within the player's mindset to want to be good defense?
I did, a lot of it. I had good speed. That was so speed makes up for mistakes. Sometimes you don't get a good jump on the ball, but Bill Burton actually showed me how to get a jump on the baseball. He says when you're playing in center field, you track the ball in. So if the ball is going to the right side of the home plate, you're going to start moving that way as wherever the ball, because good hitters hit the ball where it's hit, where it's placed, where it's pitched. So if it's thrown away, they'll hit it away. So I'm literally, moving that way. But when you play right field and left field, you do it differently. You watch the pitcher as he's winding up, and when he gets ready to throw the ball, you switch your eyes. You switch your eyes from the pitcher to the hitter. And then what I'll do is I'll look at that, and I go with the swing. If it looks like he's pulling the ball, you start your crossover step, whichever way it looks like you're going to do it. And that's how you get a better jump. A lot of players, Bannister, remember we had Bannister, a pitcher with us, and he said he loved to watch me play in the outfield because every time a ball was hit up in the air, they'd look out there and I was already moving. And I'd have a tendency to do that too when I'm watching games now. So I watch the outfielders and I go like, that's not a very good jump. But defensive, you need skills.
Right.
And let's take pride in your defense too. And you have to differentiate it from your hitting. How many times have you just seen a guy out there in the outfield going like this? They just missed the ball, hitting wise. You have to forget about that. You're now a defensive player.
It sounds like a basketball mindset, same idea, that you're gonna play defense on basketball, you have to want to play defense.
Yes. Well, it was good. It was pretty good with certain of our pitching staff too. Hardest guy to play for was Bob Nepper. Because Bob Nepper went 3-2 on every hitter. And you have to get ready to go on every one. You're exhausted by the time you do that. Getting ready. Nolan was tough to play. Because he went deep into the field. The one thing Nolan told us, he says, you play a little more shallow. He said, if they hit it over your head and hit it out, that's my fault. That was pretty good. You could take that. I'd love to take those hits away from Davey Lopes with the Dodgers. So I knew he couldn't hit it over my head. There's I would say Phil Garner. Phil Garner was when he was with Pittsburgh. If I moved in, he'd hit one over my head. If I moved back, he'd hit one in front of me. It's the hardest thing. He also took. Phil took. I got a brand new set of bats in, and the handles were a little bit too thick. And so Phil said, I can have those fixed. I have a lathe, and we'll get them shaved down. And so he took all my bats. So about 2-3 weeks later, I said, Phil, where are my bats? And he says, Terry, I am so sorry. Harold sold them in an auction.
One thing that I knew about you was your hitting. You were just it's looked at as coach's hitter. When you keep talking about defense, what about your hitting? What's your secret?
So you're looking at a player that went through two different styles of hitting, really. When I first came up, I was more of a front foot hitter. And then once they start saying that this guy can hit the backfield, then they start throwing breaking balls and changeups and everything. And it almost, I had to reteach myself with the help of Dennis Menke to stay on the backside. So I literally hit two different ways in my career, which really helped me down at UHB when I was coaching. Because I could cut through a lot of the red tape with the pluggers when I see them hitting and I go, oh, that's not going to work. Yeah, it might work here at high school and a lower college. But if you want to play and hit at a high level, you have to have a short swing. I think one of the greatest swings I've ever seen is Larry Vaught's. That was a short swing. And which I can't believe he's on the whole thing. Yeah. But hitting takes an incredible amount of work. It's a lot about confidence. If you feel like you're in a good groove, you're going to hit. I think when you struggle, you sometimes see these guys who look like they're like deer staring in the headlights. So they've completely lost it. And you can go through those times as a hitter. It's but you got to go back out there. I'll tell you a funny story about that. We're playing Pittsburgh Pirates, and Willie Starling was there. And Willie came up to me before, and I was struggling a little bit at that time. And he said, Terry, he says, I see something that you're doing that he said I did as a young hitter. He says, you were both left-handed hitters. He says, you're not turning your head enough because you're not looking at it both your eyes. You're just turning a little bit and you're just looking at it one of your eyes. He said, that's what he did. He says, turn your head. And so I did that. The first at bat, we were playing him. He's playing first base. Guy throws the ball. And I hit a line drive right up the middle. And I get down to first base. Willie Stargell is happier than I am. In fact, when he was at, we went to Nolan Ryan's Hall of Fame. That they have all these Hall of Fame guys at Cooperstown at different locations, and Willie Stargell had about a half a block long line to get his autograph. And I took my two boys. I said, "We're standing in this line because you are going to meet Willie Stargell." And we got there, just finally got to the front line, and Willie was about 2 years before he passed away. He was a big man. And I walked up and I said, Willie, Terry Puhl. And he jumped up and he came around, gave me a big hug, and I got to, my two boys got to meet us. One of the great men in baseball. Yes.
What picture did you like the bat? Or you could hit him, which one did you like the bat?
Wow. That's a good question. And cut me off when you think that I need to stop. Okay, right, 'cause I answer the question. Yes. But Steve Rogers with the Montreal Expo, I wore him out early in my career. I mean, I came out of every game 2-3 hits every time. And I went back home to Canada during the winter, and I was doing an interview, and somebody asked me that same question. I said, without question, Steve Rogers. I never got another hit. Gal, you gotta have at least one question. I want to hear one question. One thing I did appreciate for you as a general manager, because a lot of general managers, we know where they sit up in the suites. And we used to have a general manager later on that we saw chairs flying across the way. But
How do you compare today's games? Game you play?
well, the game, at least with the hitters are elevating their swing. I've fought a lot of these guys in college. It says you want to elevate the ball. They're trying to put backspin on the ball, put the ball up in the air, put the ball up in the air. And a lot of them lose the capability of their speed. And most of them, I would say about 95% of them don't have the power to hit it out the other way. So they're an out. They're an out. And I said, you can't get it through their heads. These major leaguers are 240 pounds, 220 pounds. They're solid. They're 6'5". And yeah, they can do that. They can get it out. But I see, like for instance, Verlander. He figured that out. He figured he could pitch up in the strike zone. Well, what did all the hitters do? And this is what all good hitters do. If you stay in the big leagues, you have to adjust. You have to adjust because they're gonna try to get you out of the way, and you got to show that you can hit the ball away. And then they're going to come in on you, so you're always adjusting. It's a cat and mouse game. And now the hitters have adjusted a little bit to Verlander pitching up in the strike zone. And now if he doesn't have as good 97, 98 mile an hour fastball, which we didn't see too much of late, and he got hurt up there. And so unless he gets that, that's why Javier pitch up there. He's got that little bit of a jump on.
Barry, do you think the shifting rules that are going into effect next year are going to make much difference in the game?
Yeah, I think they will make some difference. I see so many balls that when they're off the bat, I say, "Oh, it's a base hit." Especially, but some guys don't take advantage. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to learn, but they're taught to pull the ball. We keep on pulling the ball, but it'll speed up the game. No question about it. It'll speed it up. Yeah, I think the batting average will increase a little bit. Yes.
Good question. I grew up in Texas. When did you find time to learn how to play baseball coming to Canada with the weather? And second question is, who's the best ball player you played with?
That I played with. Best ball player I thought that I've ever played with Cesar Cedillo. Cesar had some injury issues, but as for a physical specimen, there's no comparison to what we've ever seen. This guy was a beast.
I would absolutely agree. He was the most talented player the Astros have ever had. As a result of injuries and other factors, then his accomplishments were not as great as Bagwell and Biggio or Kirkland, a number of other people. But he was the greatest talent we had. There were others that read that, but he was Willie Mays.
And a close second after that, I think it would have been Dickie Vaught. Dickie Vaught was quite a player. And of the pitchers, of course, Nolan is in there and J.R. Richard was the most did. I used to hate hitting off to him at spring training. He put you in a slump immediately. Astros have had some fine players, but those and three, I think, are the elite.
Is there a lot of baseball in Canada?
Well, there was when I played, it's just high school baseball, I got down here, I had good coaching, I played every day. I was 17 years old. So I got a lot of games really, I got up to speed real quick. So that was me getting out of Canada at an early age to get down here. If I would have come out of college, there'd have been no chance.
I was very interested in your comments about your own development. We hear a lot today about the emphasis on player development, farm systems, and staffs are so much greater. Major league staffs, when I started off, it's like long time ago, where you had a manager and two coaches at major league level. Today, the Giants have 8, 10 coaches or something of that nature. It's the same thing in the minor leagues. You've got all the added instruction. But as I was pleased and sense that you felt from your own career that you got sufficient help to get to the big one.
And guys that taught me how to throw, these are all in the minor leagues too. Swing. Jim Beecham helped me a lot in AAA with, he was a big leader for 12 years himself. And I think that's a little bit different where back then you had coaches that became career minor league coaches and they knew the games. They knew what to help the players with. You don't have to, you're not going to take a player and make a 250 hitter into a 320 hitter. You're not going to do that. But you can take a 275 hitter and make him into a 320 hitter. And it doesn't take much. Like Beecham just showed me a few things. Leo Posada had this thing about holding a bat. And he would have he put my thumb over my third finger when I hit. That's how because he thought you could release your hands better that way. I get to Jim Beecham and he's watching me hit the first time. He says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what you're doing." And he says, "You've got your thumb over your third finger." He said, "Get that thumb where it's supposed to be." I said, "Well, I can't hit that way because I've been hitting like that for about a year and a half already." And he says, "If I see you hitting with your thumb over there, you're not playing." So I learned how to do it. It's not a big thing, it's little things. Base running is a huge thing in Enos Cabell. Enos Cabell was I thought was the greatest base runner on our team. I don't know, Howard Cosell beat him up in that 80, about rounding, but he probably took a wide turn. But Enos Cabell taught us how to be the contact play at third base. How to run it properly so you could score on an infield ball with the infield almost drawn in. And there are not too many guys that are doing it. Yes.
I'm very interested in your explanation of your dispensing skill. You were aware at the time you had the major league record outfielder for the best percentage defense for 150 games. When baseball started, you had the record. So, the last couple of years?
But I knew I had a high fielding percentage, but it's all of us is just habits. That's all it was. It wasn't like I was doing it. I never thought of it. It just happens. At the end, you listen, 18 errors. I still blame my buddies. We went to Chicago. It was in '78, and there was a ball. I was playing center field that day, and Joaquin Andujar was pitching. It was the first game, and we had gone out and had a few extra cervezas with the boys, and you know how the Canadians like to drink. And so ball was hitting a line drive to me. It was like one hop, and I swear to this day that ball took a bad bounce. It hit me off the chest, and I got an error on that play. So every time I talk to give any kind of talks up in Canada, and anybody, one of those guys are at them, I always make them stand up in the crowd first. What I says, I had 18 errors, but they cost me one of them. Oh, there's another thing right there, what I just said. Your extracurricular activities as a player. I saw so many players who have been, some of those names have been mentioned in this room. But you have to take care of yourself. And I think players today take better care of themselves than what in my era. You have to get your rest, you have to eat properly. You cannot get hits unless you eat cheeseburgers. Craig Reynolds. I have to say something about Craig. Craig and I, we roomed together for 10 years. Finally, we got to be making enough money. We had adjoining rooms, but Craig is closer than a brother than me. And to this day, if I get a phone call at 11:30 at night, it's probably Craig Reynolds. And so he's one of the true gentlemen in the game, but I love him to death, and he had a big impact on my other parts of America. One of them, being my relationship with Jesus Christ. Craig is a pastor up at Second Baptist at Kingwood. Great friend. You got to tell me when I got it, because I know there's another gentleman that has to do.
Hey, does anybody online have a question for Terry?
Yes.
Go ahead. Whoever's first, Maxwell, Mark, doesn't matter.
You want to go first or want me to go first?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Maxwell, then Mark.
All right.
Go ahead, Max.
I've got a picture here showing Terry rounding third and heading for home, being approached by Jose Cruz, Craig Reynolds, Phil Garner, and Alan Ashby.
My first grand slam.
Terry, I don't know if you can see the picture, but what do you remember about? What do you remember about that game and that home run?
Yeah, that was a game that was against the Mets. And who was their closer at that time? It was they had a nasty curveball. But anyways, the score 5-1. Craig's score 5-1 in the bottom of the ninth with 2 out. No, he's a right-hander. Roger McDowell. And he did not play against Kershaw. There you go. It's really Burton's trying to say something, I think, but he doesn't have a volume on.
She's muted.
Talking to somebody else. Yeah, but that home run with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, tied the game at 5-5, and we lost the next innings. My next grand slam was up in Montreal. We lost that game. I did hit a third one, and we did. And the third one was off of Oral Hershots. Okay, now you got here. Oral Hershot was his last start in Houston, and he was winning the ERA title. We dropped 8 earned runs on him. He lost the ERA. Loved it. Grand slam against the White. I hit 2 home runs in one game. Twice I did it over there, and both of them. One was off of Bill Negro. The great knuckleballer. Yeah. All you got to do is, take him knuckleball until he throws a strike. I can't get it. Why would I swing it? So then when he goes 2-0, he has to throw that nothing little sinker. So then you get on top of the plate and you look for it up. When he gets up, it's like batting. I got 2 home runs. I also hit a line drive off of Phil Negro in Atlanta. I hit him right in the cup. And the ball goes back between first and home plate, and I get to first base, and he goes down. Of course, everybody comes down, and then they take him off, and then about 5 minutes later, here comes Phil Negro running back out. He starts pitching again.
Okay.
And after the game, I called him. I said, "You okay?" He says, "Terry," he said, "when you hit that, you shattered my cup." He said, pieces all over the place. I had to go get changed. For Joe Nico was probably one of his. Usually, I mean, he had a couple of years there. He was the best pitcher in baseball.
Art?
Okay. Yes, Terry, Mark here. I have a trivia question for you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Against which pitcher did you have the highest career batting average, minimum 45 at bats?
Probably Tom Seaver.
Dang, I'm impressed. And do you know what that average was?
22.
Oh, my God.
It was 444.
444.
20 for 45.
I saw Tom Seaver at the back end of his career. Okay? He was
Okay, maybe that's it.
upper 80s pitcher. I saw.
Anyone else?
I got.
Go ahead.
The 1980 National League Championship Series kind of put you on the map. I think it was a great series. I wanted to know how y'all felt when Cesar Cedeno got hurt. And did you play center field from that point
I
forward?
did. Yes, I was playing right field, and I've moved to center field. And that's your big shoes to fill. But I always felt with Cesar, we could always match up. He was our superstar. And so it didn't matter who, they had Steve Carlton, we had Cesar Cedeno. It didn't matter. And that's why I always felt with Cesar on the team. It's like, we as the other parts of the team, we could do our thing, but Cesar was our leader. Even though he, because he was such a great player. Cesar taught me how to play the outfield there. He would whistle at me when I first came up to left field. He'd whistle at me. He said, "TP, move in 2 steps." I move in 2 steps, and you go like, okay. And sure enough, you did. You in a position. And I also learned with Cesar, a ball in the alley, he never called the ball. Never came. He came over and he just listened to the chains. When he heard the chains coming, he just cleared out of the way. He took his name with the floor. LaFleur had that thing going on, because LaFleur got a base hit on Cesar, and I remember going over and I was watching LaFleur, and he grounded first, going to second. I said, "CC, 2-2-2," and he got into second base safe. He was on a regular base hit, and that Cedeno was just irritated, just absolutely irritated with this. Well, Cedeno came up and he got a base hit, and he tried to stretch it in, and LaFleur threw him out by about 20 feet. He tried to make that crazy hook slide off his knee. I was like, it was such a shame. Cesar, he would show up with the Nautilus equipment at the end, before we leave for spring training. We'd all be there working January, February, parts of November. He'd show up the 1 week before spring training. He'd put the peg into the bottom of the plates, and he'd go 20 of them, boom, 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 boom. And we'd all be looking at him like, how can you do that? It's incredible. Incredible. That should be the last question, I think, Tim.
Okay. How was it? How did you like playing on AstroTurf? Bills.
AstroTurf was good for me, because especially in the Astrodome, because the conditions were always the same. Once you got used to seeing the ball in the lights or in the windows at the dome, you got to be careful there on a day game. Night game, you hit the ball up in the air, it better be out of the stadium because I'm going to catch it, because that's how good you can get on that in the Astrodome. On the other fields, it's completely different animal. The early turf fields were very hard. Philadelphia, St. Louis, they could beat your feet up because the shoes weren't as good. When we get to Dodger Stadium and they had grass, you go, oh gosh, it feels so good on the feet. So it was hard to play on those fields. San Francisco had a really hard turf until O.J. Simpson one sign there, and they put grass in there for him. He wouldn't go, he wouldn't sign it. Willie McCovey hit me a ball at San Francisco. I was playing left field, and they got the wind and everything. If you can play the outfield in San Francisco, you can play outfield. And he hit a ball so high that I was under it in left field. I was literally camped underneath the ball. And then the wind got it. And I started running, and I was in a full, and I dove right behind Craig Reynolds at shortstop and made the catch. And there's no way I was going to drop that ball after I was camped underneath it. San Francisco was a tough place. I want to thank you for your attention.
Well, Willie Starkville may have a long line of sign. Well, so do we. So, oh, sure. Okay. Do you want to take a? We could just go right on. Go right on. All right. Next up, we have John Racanelli. John? Hello, John.
How's it going, Joe? Good to see
Just
you.
fine, just fine.
Good.
John has a very interesting topic he'd like to talk about. Something that affects everybody in this room. And something that I think as a chapter, all of you should take advantage of. John, is that a good enough introduction for you?
Perfect.
Well, John, if you don't know, John's a Chicago lawyer. He's an insatiable interest in baseball history and baseball related litigation. When not rooting for the Cubs or working, he is probably reading a baseball book, researching or writing his next blog post, planning his next baseball trip, or enjoying downtime with his wife and family. He is probably, and John wrote this, by the way, he is probably the world's foremost photographer of triple peanuts found at ball games, and likes to think he has one of the most complete collections of vintage handheld electronic baseball games known to exist. It's John's word. He is a member of the Chicago SABR chapter and founder and co-chair of the SABR Landmarks Research Committee. And he's an active member of the SABR Baseball Cards Committee. Interesting, you mentioned Dickie Thon. The Hall of Fame has a brief little article about Dickie and his baseball card. I just glanced at it today, so I might have to go back and look at that. So without further ado, John.
All right,
Tell
thanks,
us
Joe.
about your project. Thank you.
I appreciate you giving me a chance to kind of go over the Landmarks Committee and our SABR baseball map with everybody down in Houston. Just like a lot of people that get to the end of their baseball career, you probably hope that it ends with the Astros. I'm no different. My team, when I was 16, the very last time I played ball was for the National Bank of LaGrange Astros. I had 3 hits as a 16-year-old and decided it was about the time that I should hang it up. I spent way too much time over this weekend going through my closet in the basement trying to find a picture of me in my Astros uniform. I couldn't find it, so I'm sure you're all pretty disappointed about that. But I really do appreciate the chance to kind of talk about the Landmarks Committee. And I don't know who's familiar with it or not. I just thought we could kind of go through, if I could share my screen, a quick little presentation here about what it's all about. Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
No, we can't see anything.
No. Is there something that needs to be done maybe to help me share my screen?
There should be a icon near the bottom. It's on the bottom of our screen. I don't know if it's be on the bottom of yours. You should share screen.
Okay.
Maybe near the top
Green.
screen.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, now we got it.
We got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm not sure who has heard of or has used the baseball map. We went live in July after having over 50 people volunteer to try and vet all of the information we had. And basically what we're doing here is trying to put together a list and a map of all of the baseball related sites and attractions across North America and beyond. We have some stuff in Puerto Rico, we have some stuff in Canada. I know there's somebody that's volunteered to do Japan, so at some point in the future, it'd be nice to have a worldwide database and map. But basically what we're trying to do here, and I'll apologize here for the Nolan Ryan picture. I know that's a Rangers statue. I apologize for that. I've never been to Houston, so I didn't have anything Houston-wise to put up, so I apologize for that. But basically, we're just looking for SABR members to visit, verify, document different baseball sites. We're looking to foster collaborative relationships, and just like this one, Joe, thank you for inviting me to come on and talk about this. We're trying to get everybody at the local chapter level to kind of share, maybe rank whatever the must-see baseball sites in your area would be. We've started the baseball map, and we're maintaining it at this point, not only for SABR members, but everybody that's a baseball fan can look at it to see whether they want to, on a baseball trip that they're planning, find some things along the way to go see, if they just happen to be out of town for vacation or business, or even for a day trip, and there's something along the way that maybe they could go take a look at. And finally, we're looking to get with photographs, basically to document a case of future loss and destruction. And at this point, there's a lot of historical markers and statues and murals and so forth that are in disrepair, or maybe are stolen or broken or missing and so forth. And we just kind of want to preserve that for the future too. So basically everything on the SABR baseball map is going to be active ballparks. This is everything from major league, affiliated minor league, indie ball, college wood bat teams, historic ballparks that may not be in use for an active professional or wood bat league, but are still standing. Astrodome is a perfect example of one of these. Historical markers that have been placed for people and events and ballparks and so forth. Statues that are baseball related, murals, public art, museums, permanent exhibits at local historical societies that have to do with baseball, and especially at the major league level, walks of fame, wall of fame, team hall of fame, those kinds of things. We want to document all of those. Ball player grave sites, historic homes, recognizable filming locations, and then kind of other attractions and photo opportunities. So if you haven't already seen the Landmarks Committee landing page, this is on the SABR website. You can go there, and to join the committee, you go up to that box where it says announcements, click on that, you sign in, and it gives you an opportunity to join. That will allow you to get all the email updates that we have, and we'll give you better information about how to contribute. You can also contact us in the middle there with any questions. We have a frequently asked questions section there too that'll hopefully explain a little bit better what's going on. And this is a place where you can access the baseball map itself. You can see it there. You click on the image, it'll take you right to that. And then if you scroll down on this page, there's also some videos and demonstration of the map that'll kind of give you some tips and tricks on how to use it. I think Bill Perch from Chicago was on the call with us, and he was really helpful in not only verifying sites initially, but was the cameraman and executive producer for the video that we put together. So I hope you have a chance to look at it and enjoy it. So if you've never seen the baseball map, basically it's something that you can use on a computer, your desktop, your laptop. You can use it on your phone or your tablet. It's customizable by type of site, and we'll kind of go through it in a couple of minutes here. It gives you options to, based on where you are, choose the 9 nearest locations. And when you put it onto your phone, it is going to give you turn-by-turn directions when you have Google Maps on. So I'm going to try now to pop out of this and get into screen sharing the map itself. Okay, so the easiest way to find it, if you're looking for the map and you don't have the SABR website up, just Google SABR baseball map. It should hopefully come up pretty quickly. I don't know if it's only because I use it all the time that it's the top of my list. So let's go here, SABR baseball map, open it up. And essentially it's just going to give you all the sites that we've compiled so far. If you see along the left-hand side here, there's different boxes you could check. So say, for instance, all you want to look at are college wood bat teams. If you click that, then that shows only the orange pins, and that'll show you all the different college wood bat leagues across the country, and we're still adding more. But I just thought what we could do is kind of just go to Texas. So if you type that in at the top there, it's going to show you not only the state of Texas, but other places that must have Texas in their name. This one, for instance, anything that's in the Texas League is going to pop up there. That's the team in Arkansas. But if we kind of zoom into Houston, I think I saw something recently that compared the state of Rhode Island to being very similar in size to the Houston metro area. So I'm not exactly sure if this is an easy drive for you or not, but if you kind of zoom in, you're going to see there's different color spots here. So this one here, there's the Astrodome, and it's pretty cool. So if you hit Street View, now it's going to take you right inside. So you're able to see what it looks like from the inside. If you go out here, here's if you kind of zoom in, here is the cemetery where Dickie Kerr is buried. And this should be pretty close to where the actual headstone is. And if you know Dickie Kerr, he was 1919 Black Sox, one of the honest pitchers on the White Sox. There's also going to be, as we zoom out here, Buff Stadium. And this is one of the things I wanted to talk about. Joe kind of asked, what was some way that the chapter could be involved. This one, when we first put the list together, used to be, I think it was called the Fingers Furniture Store. And within within that store was a home plate marker where Buff Stadium used to be. But as I look at it now, it looks like that business has gone out of business and the building's been raised. So one of the things that we would love to have is somebody that's close by there can verify that that marker is no longer there, which I'm assuming based on what we're seeing here, it's not. But maybe can do a little detective work and find out maybe where it's at, if it was relocated or if it's in storage or something like that. And I don't know exactly how far Alvin is. I think it's not too far, right? I mean, a little bit of a drive, 40 minutes or so from central Houston. But one of the questions that we have is we've got two different spots here where there's supposed to be a Nolan Ryan statue. This one here shows in front of the City Hall building. This one shows in front of the Alvin Historical Museum. When I hit Street View, yeah, I mean, that's there. So Nolan's there, but when I go to the other one, it's not there. So this is one of those things too, that all of the verification that we've kind of done up to this point, unless we had somebody local to that particular city, has all really kind of been done with just using Google Maps and searching online. And when we go to this one here and go to Street View, I'm not seeing one there. I can't imagine there'd be two that close together, but this is just one of the things that we're hoping that each chapter can kind of maybe help us with is to verify within their geographical area that each of the places is still there. Or if it's been moved, where it's been moved to. Because what it used to be was, I believe this was all at the Alvin Community College. There used to be a permanent exhibit or a Nolan Ryan Museum or something that was there. I believe it's been moved. So these are the kind of things that we need help with. And there's another one here, it's West End Park.
Yep.
Where there's a marker.
Or balance
And
centers.
this one, as you can see, it shows on here the location of it, that it's a marker. There's really not much more there. When I go to Street View,
That's the electrical station.
it's around and it's right here.
So it's basically the Allen Center.
Yeah, there's the marker right there.
There's the marker. So what we're trying to do is, for instance, if we just zoom out and I'll go to Illinois only because I know that I've put in a lot of the information here for Illinois. But if we look at markers here in Chicago, there's one for the Wrigley House. I don't have a photo in there yet. Here's the Roberto Clemente mural that's on the wall of the high school. And I've got the photo in there. I've got a little bit more information about where it's at. You can see that's my photo, so I gave myself credit for doing that. And what we're trying to do with each of the pop-up boxes is get more information about what's at that site and get a picture of it so that when somebody's using the map, they're able to go to it and they see exactly what it is. So another cool thing about the Landmarks Committee is we just launched within the last couple of months here a blog. It's called the Hardball Voyager. And basically what we're trying to do there is get people to write something, whether it's as simple as a single picture and a couple of sentences about, hey, I went and I saw this particular place. You can see it's here, it's at the SABRlandmarks.com. And if you go there, I believe we've got maybe 7 or 8 articles so far, ranging from a guy, Matt Albertson, out in Philadelphia, actually had a hand in placing a marker for Philadelphia ballparks on Jefferson Street. Andy Tarrick in Pennsylvania did an article about his favorite marker that's placed at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. And so what we're trying to do is get people to write about things that are important to them, that they have pictures of, that they visited and so forth. And I kind of look at it as a way to, if you've never written anything or published anything with SABR, we're pretty lax. I mean, what we're really looking for are personal stories about, this is something that's important to me. This is something that I think everybody that's visiting Houston should go see. Maybe it's a little bit off the beaten path. Or there might be things that, for instance, don't necessarily qualify to be placed on the actual official map, but you think would be significant and maybe interesting to people visiting the area they might want to come see. So if you look at the list here, I kind of went through a bunch of different prompts. You know, what's your favorite landmark? How you discovered it? What does it mean to you? This one, the next one, I think the top 5 or 10 baseball sites baseball fans should see, I think, is a perfect thing for a chapter to discuss. I know we're planning to do that at a future Chicago chapter meeting. Baseball landmark that's closer to you geographically or emotionally, why it's special to you. Any baseball landmarks near you that nobody knows about, including us. We want to have the most complete map of baseball sites across the country and the world. So if you know about something that's not on the map, please get in contact with us. You can find all that information on our site, on our SABR landing page. Travel log and photos from your baseball trip. If you're like me and say, for instance, what your entire year sometimes might revolve around is planning a baseball trip where you're gonna see ballparks, maybe you're visiting factories or breweries or distilleries along the way. Or maybe you want to make sure that you see a specific thing or a specific player or a specific team. All of that information would be something perfect for a blog post. Show us your pictures, brag about where you went, brag about all the things you saw. National parks, great. Ballparks, great. Everything that you enjoyed on your vacation is something that we would love to see. If you've paid your respects at the grave of a ball player, or you've experienced baseball kind of in a faraway or unusual location, I think a lot of people, Joe, you mentioned earlier your bucket list. I think a lot of people probably have the Midnight Sun game up in Alaska on their bucket list. So if you've ever been up there and you've got some pictures you want to share, it would be kind of the perfect thing to put on the Hardball Voyager website. And basically just at a chapter level, we're just looking, involve the chapter members, providing in-person verification, information, and photos for each of these sites. You can also coordinate visits to go see something as a chapter, learn more about, West Bend Park, or find out information about the Astrodome, and we get a tour. I'm sure you guys have probably thought about all these things already, but if it's maybe somewhere out of the ordinary or something that you hadn't thought about, maybe it's something to do as a chapter too. Like I said earlier, you can discuss and rank, compile the top 10 list for places in your area that you would tell people, yeah, you're coming to Houston, you've got to see this if you're a baseball fan. You could create an actual tour itinerary or checklist with that. And there was some mention, I think, in the introduction that the SABR grants program does have the opportunity for people in certain areas to place markers where they're deserving. We have a blog post that'll be up soon about one that was done in Florida. There's another one in Pittsburgh that I mentioned Andy before. I think he might have been involved in helping with that. SABR has money available to you to place markers where significant baseball events occurred, or significant baseball people are from, or a ballpark might have stood in the past. And then otherwise, we're just looking to help us make corrections and additions and contribute to the Hardball Voyager. We want to hear from you guys, so I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks here, I'll at least see an article or two, or at least send us a query. Is this something that you think would be appropriate and so forth? So basically, if you want to get involved, to find the map, just Google SABR baseball map. For the blog, like I said, you could find it. It's just at sabrlandmarks.com. If anybody's on Twitter, well, it still exists, I think, at this point. Please join SABR Landmarks. If you post something and you tweet at us, we will retweet it. And I'm hoping to see everybody involved in some way or form. And if you need to contact any of us, it's me and Chris Kamka and Mark Armour. We're all involved in the leadership of the committee. But I'm hoping, kind of in a short and quick manner, that gave you a little taste of what the committee's all about. I'm hoping that if you haven't used the SABR baseball map yet, that you'll go find it, check it out, play around with it a little bit, help us determine whether we have everything we need on it. And hopefully it'll spark some conversation in the chapter to figure out whether we've got everything that we should know about in Houston, and whether there's anything on there that maybe you think is worthy of maybe a group visit or something. So I do appreciate your time. I'm assuming you don't have as many questions for me about my Astros career, but if you do want to ask me anything, I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions for John?
I have a question about the baseball card thing.
Yeah, what? Yeah.
Baseball card.
Didn't it say
Baseball
something?
cards?
Yeah, wasn't that your intro?
Yes. I'm a big baseball card collector. Basically Cubs team sets, and a handful of other stuff. I have a fair amount of Terry Puhl cards. Again, I wish I would have pulled them out, but I couldn't find them right away.
Can you show us a picture of that triple peanut?
Let me see. Maybe if I could find it on my phone here.
I was
interested if there was here's what I have. I don't know if you could really see it. I've got
Fred's a dude.
the thumbnail here. So I don't know if you're able to see this or not, but basically, when I go to a ballpark, I get a bag of peanuts. If I find a triple peanut, I take a picture of it. And this just kind of started as a fun thing with my younger son. We would always compete to see who would get the most triple peanuts at a ball game. And I went to a game without him. I took a picture of it. I sent it to him as a haha, look what I found. And years later, I'm kind of now at hundreds of these. So I don't know, it's just kind of something fun and quirky that I like to do.
Fine. Do you find more Werkley or Kaminsky?
To be honest with you, I have gotten to the point where I like my own peanuts and I bring them with me. So usually if I'm buying the Hampton Farms Jumbo, plug for Hampton Farms, usually they have a fair amount of triples in them. So that's my go-to.
Mike, your question was about SABR baseball card?
Yeah, there's a SABR baseball card thing.
Is there a SABR baseball card? There's a SABR baseball card committee, yeah.
Yes, there's a committee, and there's also a SABR baseball cards blog. So if you are interested in reading about baseball cards, if you're interested in writing about baseball cards, if you find, I think it might just be SABRbaseballcards.com or SABRbaseballcards.org. I'm not exactly sure right off the top of my head what it is, but yes, definitely look for it if you search online, or if you want me to, I could email Joe with the information too.
Okay. Thank you, John.
All right, thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I personally feel like this is something the chapter could get more involved in, but hey, that's me. We'll see. We'll see. All right. We have a trivia contest. Don't go anywhere because the winner gets this World Series champion lapel pin. If you don't have one, I'll come on now. And one of our newest chapter members, Patrick, won the trivia contest last month. So if you are relatively new to our chapter, hey, Patrick is the example of somebody that can win one right when he joined. In fact, I think one of the few ones I won was right after I joined, but that was 13 years ago. So here we go, Patrick.
Diabolical Chris Chestnut's trivia quiz.
So the theme this month I went with was parades and Astros history. Towels joining us, but that's gonna be the team here. So it's a whole choice.
Hey, you're allowed to pair up for 3 of them. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, Scott, I haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome back, Scott.
Thank you.
If y'all don't know Scott Bargo,
You running out the bus?
hey, trying to know those? Yeah, let me got guys. Nice to meet you. By the way, one other thing of note, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Terry about this, but I did get a chance to talk to Brownie about this, and he says this looks genuine. I found this on Amazon. It's called Baseball Swing with Terry Puhl. Bill says it looks genuine. So I'll pass this around. You know, y'all want to look at it. You didn't get a chance to autograph it, but you know, very, very good.
I heard what I got, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go through the questions real quick here. So question 1, the Astros have had 4 different Cy Young Award winners in their history. Which 2 were acquired via trade? So 2 names, there's a couple questions here that are 2 name answers.
Can you
The,
speak slowly and clearly?
You want an answer now? What?
No, go through and know the answer. Yeah.
Hey, Mark, you want him to read the question?
Yeah, I cannot see that.
Yeah, go ahead, read the question.
we're getting.
He's gonna share it.
Oh, he's gonna share it, okay. Can you see it now, Mark?
Yes.
All right.
Sorry about that.
After the 1991 season, the Astros made the smart decision to move Craig Biggio from catcher to second base. However, to fill the void at catcher, they made the decision to trade this future six-time All-Star outfielder to Cleveland. Question 3, at the time of the trade from the Seattle Mariners, this pitcher had a career ERA of 9.53. He developed into an all-star with the Astros, posting 22 wins and a 2.9 ERA in 1999.
But that's not here.
No.
Yeah.
Whoop.
Question 4, one of the most lopsided trades in history across all sports. These two players were also sent to Cincinnati in 1971 to compete the Big Red Machine. Playing center field, one had nearly 150 doubles and scored over 400 runs in his 9 years with the Reds. The other led the Reds in wins for 3 consecutive years. So this is another two-namer. All right, number 5, he pitched 5 hitless innings in the classic 1986 NLCS Game 6 against the Mets, but is better known for the 1990 trade, which netted the Astros future Hall of Famer Jeff Bagwell.
5 innings?
3.
Great.
Since their inception, the Astros have made the most trades with this storied franchise. Apparently, trading within the division wasn't a concern, as these two teams played in the same division from 1994 to 2012. Number 7, a midseason acquisition. This outfielder helped the playoff push, hitting 23 home runs after joining the Astros. Had an October to remember when he batted over 450 and hit 8 home runs, despite the Astros falling in 7 games in the NLCS. That one's for you, Jeff. All right, these two players were sent to the Astros as part of a trade with the Orioles prior to the 1991 season. Later in their careers, they became teammates again, winning the 2001 World Series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. All right, number 9, famous for his World Series heroics with the Yankees, this pitcher was traded to the Orioles in the second ever trade after the Colt 45s were renamed the Astros. According to Baseball Reference, that's what
Pitched for the Yankees, but he was traded to the Orioles, or
he's famous for his pitching for the Yankees, for his World Series heroics with the Yankees. He was in a trade from the Orioles to the Astros. Once the second trade after they were renamed the Astros.
he was traded to the Orioles.
No.
He was on the Astros, trying to the Orioles.
Oh, yeah, sorry, trade to the Orioles, yeah. Stop in between.
Or is that one, maybe.
All right, not as famous as other trades in Astros history. However, a big trade at the time brought this future Hall of Fame pitcher who went 10-1 during his time in Houston.
Oh. Jordan Alvarez. I think Jordan should be every answer.
Number 11, just days after acquiring Lee May in the lopsided Joe Morgan trade, this future all-star first baseman was shipped off to Kansas City. What was another disastrous trade for the Astros?
Turns out it wasn't really disastrous after all.
All right, the last one. Two members of a famous baseball family, both outfielders, were involved in trades to join the Astros nearly 30 years apart. Both trades were memorable for being particularly one-sided. The first trade was an awful one for the Astros, and the second trade ended up very favorable for the Astros. So, two names here.
You can back up if you guys online and see another one. One for each one.
Famous baseball family. Both.
Very quick, very quick. Not.
Hmm.
Okay. You want that PhD or base
No, it didn't say they were both.
Why, yes, they really get it. Just even a break or not, I don't need. All right. Yeah, what? What's that?
Griffey?
We ready?
Yeah.
All right, you guys online ready to go to the answers? Sure.
All right, question one, the two Cy Young pitchers,
Verlander and Mike Scott.
Verlander and Mike Scott. Question two, the outfielder that became an all-star in Cleveland.
Kenny
Often.
Pitcher who came from Seattle that then developed into an all-star.
Mike
Like Hampton.
The two players not named Joe Morgan.
Tolan and Billy here. Not Geronimo.
These are Geronimo.
These are Geronimo.
All right, pitcher who was traded for Jeff Bagwell.
Larry Anderson.
The team the Astros have made the most trades with.
Ooh. So the Dodgers.
Mid-season acquisition.
Again.
You can't even see the trash can in that picture.
All right, the two players who were traded from Baltimore to the Astros and then became teammates later on.
Finley and Schilling.
Finley and Kurt Schilling.
Oh, that's you.
All right. Pitcher who was famous for his World Series work with the Yankees was involved with the second ever trade after being renamed the Astros.
Larson.
Larson.
Really? I got mine.
All right, pitcher went 10-1 in his half season.
Right.
Future all-star first baseman who was John Mayberry.
That wasn't John Mayberry.
Yeah, that was jumping. Jimmy Wynn. How did you?
Oh, Jimmy Wynn.
It's okay.
And the two members of a famous baseball family involved with trades 30 years apart.
Maddie wants to say.
Jesus and Moises Alou. So Seuss in the Rusty Style trade, and then Moises Alou after the Marlins were trading everyone off in '97.
Mark, how many did you get?
Awesome. I think she gave it, that's what
I didn't get the last one with the Alous. I didn't get Steve Finley.
What do you want to start at?
What was our 60? So 8.
Oh, come on, start at 7. I got 7.
All right, about 8 right. 10.
There you go, Scott.
12.
Back, Scott.
12.
Next, Canada's representing.
13.
Only 12 questions.
16.
Start about 6.
No, so that could go 14.
Canada.
Oh, Maxwell put his hand down.
That's right.
What you got, Mike?
14 out of 15.
16. That's 16.
Or 15, aren't
Gives us a point for math skills.
I thought he did more crazy.
So Mike, Mike, you won? You and Tal work together? That's gonna take a while. Yeah.
Herb.
Sure. That's a World Series. All right, everybody, great meeting. Remember next month, we are having, hold on a second, I want to make sure I get the right date, on beach.
No, you often say that, myself.
I remember on 17th, we're having a Saturday morning little get together. Talk about the grants program, stuff like that. We're gonna meet some more chapter members. Hopefully we have a couple over here that can join, so they can join us that Saturday meeting, so they can tell us who they are and why they joined. And then next month, we will meet here on the 19th with Tony Adams, stealingscandal.com, and David Vaught with his talk about Gaylord Perry and his new book.
I just saw you.
Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. And let's give one big round of applause for the Houston Astros. Thank you. Thank you, Perry, Puhl, wherever you are. Thank you all. Nice Thanksgiving. See you next month.